I had to get my blood checked like almost every other day or third day kind of deal. I got my blood checked, and it was like 4 times thinner than it was expected with the commodine. And my doctor calls me in around 10 o'clock at night, and she goes, "Are you all right?" I said, "I'm okay." And she goes, "You sure you're not bleeding?" I said, "No." And she goes, "Oh, you go to emergency right away." I said, "No, I'm not going to go to emergency. I'm feeling all right, and I'm going to sleep." And I told her, I said, "Okay, let's, I promise you, I'll be there the first thing in the morning. At 8 o'clock, I'll come and see you." But by 3 o'clock in the morning, I started bleeding and all that. I ended up in the, I had to call 911, ended up in the hospital, right? And where then they decided to do endoscopy, and then they told me that I had some bacteria in my stomach, and from there, they prescribed me some antibodies. And again, I was very skeptical of taking the Cipro they prescribed. And next day in the morning, I was about to take my antibiotics. I don't know, something told me that, oh, you're gonna have a reaction with it, and I was very apprehensive about taking it. I said, "Okay, the doctor's prescribed, I have to take it." I opened the door. In case there's an emergency and fire brigade or these medical guys come in. And sure, that thing happened. After like about 30 minutes after taking the medicine, I was passing out, and I just called 911. I was alone at my place. They came in, and they took me in an ambulance. All I could hear them at that time was saying, "Oh, his blood pressure is dropping very fast, and there's not, heartbeat is very low," right? I could hear, I couldn't see them. And at that time, they jumped me with defibrillator, right, in the van. I ended up in emergency. They fixed me. All I could hear was them talking, but I never had any near-death experience, so I didn't believe in that whatever these people were telling in the talks, because I came to very close to dying at that time. So I didn't have much belief, and moreover, the way I grew up, I didn't believe much in all these things, and I wasn't spiritual at all. My family I grew up with was very religious, and when I was growing up, I used to follow as a kid all the rituals of Hinduism, right? And somehow when I started understanding things better, like when I was 13, 14, 15, around that age time, I started like hating all these rituals and everything. We were forced into by our parents, right? And so I went far away from all these things. And for me, and then with my background in science, I became a very kind of, whatever you see, feel, that's life, nothing beyond that kind of a life. There's no life after death, and there's no hell, heaven, no God, no nothing. And then, let me tell you something about my personal journey of medical health, right? I was like 32 years old. I was here in the States at the time. It was 1989, about 30 years back. I had my first heart attack. I never thought about having a heart attack at that time. I was young, I was strong. I used to do a lot of heavy lifting in those days. And whoever thinks of heart attack at 32? So one night I get up, and all of a sudden I feel a little stress around my chest. My palms were sweaty. And I was feeling very anxious. Like, what's happening to me? What's happening to me? There might be a little shallowness of breath. And I ended up in the hospital. I just went to the hospital. I drove myself to the hospital. They checked me and they kept me for 3 days over there observing me. And finally they decided to do angiogram, and they found out 2 blocks. And in those days they used to fix it with angioplasty. Like the stents were not approved by FDA at the time. And they fixed me. I came back home. I was good for a few days, and then I went back to my old habits, smoking, drinking, eating, whatever. And again, I had another heart attack in '92. That was about 3 years later. And I had, again, 2 more blocks. They put stents in 96. 95, end of 95, early 96, I had another heart attack, again more stents. In 2000, I had bypass surgery, and I had 2 strokes within a period of 3 months. It was a triple bypass surgery. And then in 2005, I had this episode I just explained to you earlier. I had more stents put in me. Then 2007, 8, 9, and 10. Every year I would have a heart attack. And they put more and more stents. I guess I had more stents than anybody else around there. Maybe like around 17, 18, or maybe I even forget the count. They put so many of them over the period of time. And in 2010, I lost my kidneys totally. And I had to go on dialysis. First I was on home dialysis. Like it's called as peritoneal dialysis. You do it yourself with a machine and all that whole night, 8 hours overnight. And then, after like a couple of years, they say, oh, clearance is no good, and they put me on hemodialysis, where you go to the center, sit there on a chair for 4 hours, 4 times a week, and the machine takes care of it. All right, now, my kidneys failed in 2010, and now coming to 2013, I got so weak that I couldn't, I wasn't myself at that time, let me tell you. All these problems, the health issues, they were taking over me now, right? I couldn't walk, I couldn't get up of the chair, I couldn't go to the restroom by myself. I couldn't walk, take few steps, and then moreover, I couldn't even eat anything. I had lost all the appetite. I had lost the taste in my mouth. Right? I asked the doctors, what's going on? And one of the doctors, he did admit it, that he goes, your body is preparing to die. And I asked him, I say, in this situation, how much longer probably? And he goes, it won't be long, maybe like about a few weeks.
Oh my God.
I said, all right. I couldn't do anything. I was so weak at the time, I couldn't even focus on a thought, on my own thought if I'm talking about something. I couldn't focus on TV for the continuity of it, like what they are trying to tell. I would doze off. Like, you can say, I was in a body of like maybe an old guy. At that time, my body was so behaving like that, who was just about to die, right? And at that time, I told my doctors, I said, there's no point in continuing the medications and all that. Why don't I just call it quits and let the nature take care of it? And they said, no. And my daughter, she goes, no, we're not gonna give up. And she encouraged me a lot. And She wrote letters around. She wrote a letter to UCSF about. She goes, let's get you at least kidney transplant. It might do something good. And my sister, she was willing to give me a kidney. She flew from India to here. And then UCSF told me, or told us, informed us, that no, we cannot take kidney because your heart is so weak. Its output was only 15% of normal. He goes, we can do it. It's going to be a waste of kidney. You're going to die anyhow. If it has to be, it has to be both organs. And you are too weak to get the organs or put on the list right now. And then director of transplant in UCSF heart transplant, Dr. Wiesel Thaler, he calls me. And we all go there for a meeting with him. And he goes, you know your situation. And he goes, what if he goes, I haven't done this any time before, but I can put artificial conception in you to take over the function of a heart. Basically, it's the left side of the heart. That machine takes over all the functions. It's called as left ventricle assist device. I'll show you a little later. I have it in the car. It's because my surgeon gave me as a memento after I became all healthy and everything. And he puts in, it's made a hole here, take the wires out. I had to wear a computer and I had to wear all the batteries, paraphernalia around me. And at night time, I would plug myself into AC.
Wow.
Yeah, and then with this machine, I will go and sit on a dialysis machine. So I was alive on machines basically. After they put the LVAD in me, I started regaining a little strength. I gained a little weight because at that time, now I weigh like about 190 pounds. That was my usual weight even before I got sick. And at that time, I was weighing like only about 135 pounds. I had lost so much of weight, right? I picked up a little weight, I picked up a little strength, and after like 3 months of LVAD implant, I would go over there to UCF for a checkup, and my doctor told me, he goes, are you ready for a transplant? He goes, I'm gonna put you on a waiting list now for the organs. And I was put on the list. And after like about 7 weeks, he calls me. He goes, we got organs available for you. I go there. I got admitted right away. Next day they did a surgery. It was a long surgery because it was a double transplant. Simultaneously they transplanted kidney as well as heart. And during the surgery, something happened which I realized after coming out of the anesthesia, because I was under very heavy anesthesia till next day morning when I came to my senses. I felt, I did, not felt, but I was chanting mantras. Me chanting mantras was a very weird thing, even for my family members. They were scared that something has gone wrong in the surgery. How come this guy is chanting mantras? Right? And this experience of near death happened to me when sometimes during the surgery. See, what happens is during the surgery, when they take your heart out, they put a new one in. For some time you are on the machines only, because to replace the thing, right? And I read all the minutes of my surgery and everything. What they do is, after they put the new heart in, they jump start it, like they give it a shock to start it. because the donor's heart is not beating at that time. Donor's heart, they have already harvested like 4 hours before they put it in the new body, right? So they have to give it a shock to start it. Some of the times it starts right away, sometimes it takes time. So in my case, it took a little longer than they expected, right? So I think that my experience of ND happened during that time. I didn't discuss it with doctors in details, my experience, because I thought that they're not going to believe anything. But I did take the minutes from them, and it's in the record and everything. So what my experience was that somewhere, somehow, I got catapulted into some other realm. Like I was here and I was there, right? And it was kind of a valley over there, a very peaceful, very quiet place, very pleasant. It seemed like I've been there before. Like I felt so comfortable, I felt at home over there. It wasn't like it didn't seem like any alien place to me, right? And at that time, I was communicating, somebody started communicating with me telepathically. I could feel my presence over there. I couldn't see myself physically there, right? And the first thing I heard, or whatever I received was, "Oh, dog, you are here finally." And I was a little thinking, why somebody is calling me dog? And then all of a sudden, the answer came to me that I've been a critic of all this spirituality, God, and everything whole of my life. Even I would talk openly about it, and I'll try to convince, like you were talking now, then I would try to convince you that yours is a false belief, right? There's nothing after life, or things don't happen like that. And then I realized that's why somebody called me probably dog, because I'm very outspoken and everything. And then I had this question, where I am, whom I'm communicating with. And the communication I got back was that don't act. You very well know where you are, and you very well know whom you are communicating with. Right? The place.
I didn't hear your word correctly. They called you God?
Dog.
Dog. Oh, okay. See, I couldn't.
Okay. And there was where my presence was, there was a cloud up there, right? And I could see light, source of light, on one side of it, right? And I had all these questions, and the authority, I would say, whoever was communicating with me, told me that you think you are the most important person on this place of earth. He was, let me show you your right place. Somehow my presence goes near. There was a gap between the hills on the side of the boundary of that valley. And I could see universe like Earth moving there and other planets, sun going by, all those universal bodies, or right? And that made me feel like very insignificant or infinitesimally small entity in this universe. Right? Before that, I thought I was the only one on this earth. Like I was the most important person. I was the most intelligent guy. I was physically the strongest person. I can do anything. I can get away by doing anything. And I never thought anybody was at par with me. Right? And after that, what happened was the cloud cleared a little bit on the top and lights started falling down like a spotlight kind of a thing where I was standing or where my presence was. And that was the most that was the best experience I had in my life. It was so peaceful, so calm, so loving, right? All my thoughts became like I wasn't thinking anything at that time. All my mind was clear. And I was totally at peace with myself. And it was a very blissful experience, let me put it this way. And as I was standing there, slowly my existence started melting into the light. And at that time, when I was kind of fading away, somehow somebody told me or communicated with me, you have to go back. I didn't, in my mind, argued, questioned, or anything. And then that was the end of the experience at there. Right? All next day, I didn't find myself coming back to my body, and it was very vivid experience. I tried to do a lot of research around it after, because I wasn't comfortable after even talking about it much, except for my very close ones in the beginning, because it was against all my beliefs of life. If I believed in that, then all of my existence so far would come to zero. And I did a lot of research scientifically, what all this is. And did I really die? When did you die? What happens? So scientifically, I'm talking about. And I didn't get very many answers out of that. And then I came to know about Mal. We became friends, and I told him, like 2 years later, I decided. I said, I'm gonna go to India. Maybe I'll ask some people who are spiritually evolved, what's happening, what's all this all about. And I'm gonna just, he goes, what are you gonna do? Whom are you gonna meet over there? I said, I have nothing in mind. I just gonna wander around. And whoever I come across, I'll sit and listen to him, or I'll share my experience and see what they have to tell me about. He goes, oh, that's a very interesting idea. A good thing. He goes, okay, can I come with you? I said, sure, come along. And we both went to India. And from Delhi, we landed in Delhi. From Delhi, we went straight to Varanasi. If you guys are familiar with the geography of India, it's one of the oldest cities in the world. And that's where Ramayana, the Hindu scripture epic, was written by Tulsidas. We saw that place, you know, Tulsidas Ghat over there on the side, there was one.
Right.
Yeah. And Then we went to Rishikesh. I don't know, are you familiar with India, you guys?
A little bit. I've studied a
Yeah,
lot-
probably
a lot
you
of
seem to.
Hindus.
We went to Dharamsala, okay,
Yeah,
to
Yogananda,
the Dalai
Yogasala,
Lama's
yeah.
place. Everybody knows Dalai Lama. Yeah, we were in his town for like about 2-3 days.
And Bodh Gaya.
We went to Bodh Gaya where Buddha got enlightenment. We saw that tree. It's still there. Yeah, and Haridwar, and we met a lot of on our journey or on our way. We met a lot of people who were spiritually evolved, or some of them who claimed to be spiritually evolved, right? And we got some idea. They told us. See, the interesting thing, we were in Bodh Gaya, I guess, we were in Gaya at that time, or Varanasi, when we went to see that Buddhist pillar and all that, where Buddha did his preachings to his first
Sarnath.
disciples.
Sarnath.
Sarnath. And on the way back, there was this monastery, and we just decided to go in there, and we met, I guess he was a Korean guy we met, and we talked to him about this, and he said,
Were you born in India?
Yes, I'm from India. I
Where?
came here like in 1985.
But you were born where in India?
Yes.
Where?
I was born in Punjab,
Oh, okay.
in northwestern area.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sikhism is very popular religion in that area. Sikhs, the guys with the beards and
Guru
turbans.
Nanak.
Guru Nanak. Okay, you know a lot. And he told us that in Buddhism, people don't give no importance to experiences themselves, like experience itself, because you cannot make somebody else experience the same thing, or one experience. Different people might see it from different angles, and they might explain it a different way, the same experience. And he goes, we tend to forget about the experience and just remember the teachings or whatever you learn from that experience. And true. And during my experience, the other thing I was told was, which I forgot to mention, very important thing, was that answers to all the questions, when I was trying to question the things in my mind, I got this message that they are within you. You have to look within yourself rather than looking outside, right? And I didn't understand much of its meaning, that how can I look inside me, right? And that when we were going around, people, like we went to Karmapa's place in Dharamsala. He's the highest Lama of, there are like 7 different Lamas over there. They have different groups or tribes, you can say, or beliefs. Belief is basically the same. And he's a chief of one of those groups. Dalai Lama is one of them, and Karmapa is another one. And I did ask him the same thing about my experience, and he did tell me that analytical meditation might help you. That's the exact words he told me. It was a very short meeting over there with him.
But your question was, how can I get...
How I can get back to the same experience or same state of bliss, fullness, happiness, peace, love, now.
And how can I access the answers that are already within me?
Yeah, and the questions which are within me. And he did tell that analytical meditation might help. And a lot of people over there, they were of the same opinion. We were talking to, and
What is analytical meditation?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
okay, and analytical meditation, what I make out of it, I didn't ask him what analytical meditation is. You meditate, right? And then you question yourself. You analyze yourself, right? Instead of trying to analyze everything around you, right? That's what I got it from that, whatever he told me. And that's how you go inside you and you try to find the answers about yourself. You try to self-realize who you are, what you are doing, how you are doing, why you did this, why you did that. I used to get very upset before. Let me give you a very simple example. I was a young, angry man. I would snap at anybody, right? And then after this experience of talking to people and all that, and I started thinking that why I'm like this? And the answer I got from was, it's not the other people, it's you. You don't have your things straight. You are messed up. You are scared, right? And you just snap at other people, get upset at other people, right? There's no reason to get upset at them. It doesn't matter whatever actions or words they use. So that's what I guess analytical meditation meant to me.
Mm-hmm.
And now coming down to, like, a lot of people talk about, like the couple of talks I attended before all this experience I talked to you about. They always talk about the gift they get from this experience from God or Supreme Being or whoever. A lot of people talk about it, and a lot of people ask me about that, because what gift you got? And I didn't get any gift like that, where I can see people's future or to communicate with the other side. But see, the thing I got was, I guess the best thing which has happened to me was I got to self-realize. I started working on that path. It opened my eyes that there is something beyond your objective knowledge, the actual truth, right? And I started like contemplating. I don't read a lot. I have read enough of science books in my time, and I don't like reading. And I didn't want to listen to much to the other people's experience. I haven't. That's why I don't talk about other people's experience, because I don't know what they experience. Because I wanted to keep my experience original and not to be influenced by anybody else's experience. That's how I felt. And it definitely have humbled me a lot, this experience. And I'm a lot better person, I think, what I am today than before. Right? And the other thing is that I'm not afraid. I don't have much of a fear about anything now. I don't fear of death no more. I don't fear about getting sick. And I accept life as it is. Right? Now, talking on those lines, we know that life never runs smoothly. It ain't gonna be a straight line. And there won't be any fun in life. It ran like on a smooth line. There's always ups and downs, right? And what we call as tough times, like in our regular day or the regular life, we consider it, like people come and they tell me, you had a very tough life. And when I look back now, I don't think I had a tough life. It was just experiences. And experiences are not, they are not good, they are not bad. They are just experiences. It's we project we put the quality to it. It's good, it's bad, it's this, it's that. But experiences, I guess, in them itself, the experience is neutral. How you take it, it's up to you. Am I making any sense?
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, like, people pray to God not to have like this thing to get better with their health wise, or to have more money, or to, in India, a lot of them they pray for a son and to give them a male kid and all that. But
Wow.
to me, they don't make any sense. See, what I understand is the best part is to accept whatever phase of life you are in. If you truly accept it, right, it won't bother you. Like, you won't be like so sorrowful if you lose something, or you won't be too happy if you gain something. It's just part of life. It's just part of life. Like, and then somebody asked me that, oh, you went through so much medical. Wasn't it hurting you? Wasn't it painful or all that? And what I think pain is just how you perceive it. It's your perception. Like one day, I just give you a simple example. A doctor came to me after the surgery. I had like about 9 tubes coming out of my body. There were a couple from the neck, from this area, and from the stomach to drain fluids, extra, or whatever it was. And he tells me, this evening I'm gonna pull out your tubes. And I just asked him, how are you gonna do it? And he goes, I'm just gonna yank it out. I said, okay. I was so scared of that. Whole day I was thinking about, oh, how much it gonna hurt me when he gonna pull it out, right? And then he comes it was a very long day for me. And then he comes in the afternoon around 4:30, 5 o'clock. He goes, okay, let's do it. And he pulls the curtain and he goes, okay. He goes, just a hum. And I go, And I didn't even realize. And he goes, okay, it's all done. I said, what? He goes, yeah, they are out. So what I'm trying to say is, perception we have made our mind, already made mind of things, that this is a painful thing, this is a hurtful thing. And anticipation of that hurts more than the actual thing. It didn't hurt me at all. The same thing, I guess, it's about dying. Whatever my experiences are about it is, it's not a hurtful thing. People have to understand that if they're born, they're gonna die one day, right? It's just a part of development in your life. It's the last stage of your physical life. last stage of development. And nobody goes about for living forever. Whoever is born gonna die, right? But still, we fail to come to what word should I use? We fail to accept that okay, I'm gonna die. Nobody thinks about dying, or if they even think of, they are afraid of it. They are fearful of it. Like in Hindu scriptures, there's this small story where, like in Mahabharata, have you heard of Mahabharata? It's story about in Hindus. You must have
Mahabharata?
heard Mahabharata.
Yeah, that's the large book that is kind of a collection of all of them, the Upanishads
Yeah,
and Vedas and all that.
there's a story where one of the guy, he was asked question. He goes, what's the most strange thing in this world? And he goes, the strangest thing is people see people dying every day, but nobody wants to die. Still nobody wants. There's only one way to get out of this world, and everybody knows that way. Right? And still we try to think we are like indispensable, we are immortal, world will end with us. And you have seen so many people for hundreds, thousands of years, they die, new generation comes in, and life goes on. Life goes on. And so if we accept, why I'm talking about this is, if we accept the death, then a lot of fears gonna go away from our life. Our everyday life, it is surrounded by a lot of fears. We are always, there's some kind of a fear in our mind, and it dictates our life or whatever we do in our daily lives. Like we are scared of losing a job, we are scared of getting into an accident, this and that. We are scared of losing our health. And then always we say, what if this thing happened to our mind is always into what if kind of a thing. And see, all these fears, they are the manipulations of fear of death. We accumulate things. We want to make more money. Why would we want to make more money? Why would we want to have $20 million when your need is only like few $1,000s? Right? We want to have more of a thing. See, fear was instilled in our minds during the course of evolution when life was evolving. Even animals are scared. They are afraid of being bitten by or hurt by other animals for our existence. So there is some factor of fear. So we don't go stand in the middle of the street. So there was some fear. Right? But over a period of time, I guess, human mind has multiplied that fear exponentially, and we are always scared of everything now, almost everything. We are scared of even falling in love with somebody. Like, what if he says no, if he turns out to be like this, like that, blah, blah, all kind of things. Right? So, once you get over the fear of death, you'll get over almost all the fears. and you'll feel a lot of freedom, and you'll start enjoying your life, right? And you will start enjoying the present and now. You will forget about, at least that's happening to me, that what if is out of my mind now. I don't want to worry about what if happens. Whatever happens, happens. I'll accept it. And what time is it?
8:30.
8:25.
Okay. And that's what I want to talk about, basically, about the things. And the other way of accepting your death, the other way which helps is love. Love is the other force. Fear is a negative force, and love is a positive force. More you love each other, more you love nature, more you feel one with the nature, that will take away your fear. That's all I have to say. If you guys have questions, you can ask questions and we can go on that one.
Jan, you had access to some of the best swamis in Rishikesh. I think your brother is responsible for building a big temple for one of the swamis there, and out of gratefulness for that, they gave you access to the 8 of the best swamis in the Divine Life Society.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from the swamis there?
Swamis basically is that about when we were talking about our experience to them, the thing which I learned was that the same thing basically what the Korean guy told us over there, that experiences are not important. Experiences cannot be repeated. People have different ways of explaining. You cannot put subjective experience, you cannot see it through the lens of objectivity. Right? And that's basically I learned over there. You want to add anything to that?
Well, after that, there was one so-called guru where I met by the Ganges who was talking with one of his disciples. And I thought, it might be kind of fun to go to his place and learn what he's got to say.
Yeah.
But you found out that there are gurus in Rishikesh that kind of, do you want to fill in the gaps?
Yeah.
It's fun.
We met all kind of gurus, all kind of people over there. There was this guy we met on Ganges, I guess we met, and we went to his place. And he had one of her Australian disciples.
An American disciple.
Yeah. With him, and he was more about me kind of a thing. That I know I guess he did mention to us. He goes, "Oh, you are not at our level, at my level, and I know a lot more than you guys," and all those that kind of a thing he was telling.
No, he never
And I was little felt bad about all this, and I didn't feel comfortable sitting in his company. Though I sat there, and we came back, and there were a lot of people like that. There are a lot of people. We met some sadhus in Varanasi over there, who had their faces painted kind of in ash or things like that, and they claimed to be Shiva's reincarnations or something like that. And I didn't feel comfortable with all that drama and...
They lack humility, they have too much ego.
Yeah, and that's a lot I have seen in lot of swamis or gurus over there had very big egos, very big egos. Like they wanted to be treated in a certain way, they have to have a place in certain way, and special chair for them, special clothes, special food for them, and all that. That they are a lot above and beyond us. which 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 I felt very uncomfortable, because if you are a spiritual person, it at least it taught me humility. I'm a lot more humble today than I was like 6 years back. By the way, my transplant happened. It's gonna be 6th anniversary on 22nd of November of this year. Yeah, I have passed the threshold of 5 years, which is a critical period after the heart transplant. And thank God, I didn't have no complications. A lot of people, rejection is very common in heart transplant cases. And then they treat you for rejection of heart. And it's a very common saying that it's not a question of if rejection, it's when. But thank God, I never went through that.
A lot of people are physically healed by their near-death experiences. You had a lot of recurring heart problems. Did they continue after your NDE?
Come again with the question. Like people got healed?
There are a lot of people who are physically healed, you know, after their NDEs. And you said you had a lot of recurring heart problems. Did your recurring heart problems continue after your NDE, or did they
No,
stop?
no. I see. Look at me today. Nobody can tell that if I was ever sick.
But was the deadline for all that?
That was the end of it.
Pardon?
That was all my. I take a lot of medications now, right?
Uh-huh.
But after my NDE, it happened during my transplant, right?
Yeah.
You contributed to transplant or to my NDE, whatever you want to do it, whichever way you want to dissect it. But I didn't have any major issues after that.
Yeah.
Not at all. Thank God for that.
The issues were created from your fears and insecurities. And so, because you eliminated most of that,
Yes.
they were eliminated.
Yeah. See, I feel very free now. And like you said, I don't feel very limited to anything. I consider myself as a free soul. Right? My attachments are not that strong as I've seen in an average person, even with my kids. Don't take me wrong, I do love my kids. I got beautiful kids. I got a beautiful wife, right? But I don't feel that kind of attachment, like they're mine,
Right,
right?
right.
I want to feel free. I feel free, and they are free. And we are all in our family enjoying life to the best.
Right.
I travel a lot these days. I travel, like I was talking to Rich earlier, like 6 months a year I'm on the road, at one place or the other. I love nature. I don't go see the buildings or take my selfie in front of some building or monument. I go interior and I look at the natural beauty most of the time, or mix around with the common people. Like you said, you are a hypnotist, right?
Hypnotherapist, yeah.
Hypnotherapist. How you see religion from a hypnosis point of view? Is it a hypnosis? Is this a mass hypnosis? Are we being taught the idea of religion and all that? Because, like I discussed earlier in my earlier life, my parents taught me, like all the rituals in Hinduism. And all my brothers, especially one eldest brother, he had met, we went to India, we went home to, and he has built a temple. He's into the same thing, like praying for idols and doing certain rituals a certain way, and chanting mantras along with those rituals. And that's as far as their spirituality goes. So my question to you is, are they hypnotized into? It doesn't make no
Well-
sense. Some of the things, or most of the things, don't make no sense to me.
First of all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. You can't force anyone to be hypnotized. Hypnosis itself is a form of inner focus, and if you add suggestion to it and you follow those suggestions, you can do amazing things in terms of speeding healing in your body, physical and emotional. I work with both. But it's impossible to hypnotize, to force, like I can't hypnotize you. I can guide you if you want to take yourself into hypnosis. I could guide you into a deep state of altered consciousness. But you choose to go there. And everyone goes into hypnosis all the time during the day. It's a very natural state of focus.
And how you see meditation to hypnosis when you see
Well,
from that
they're
angle? How you
they're very
compare?
much related because they're both altered states of consciousness.
Uh-huh.
I mean, a lot of things, I see hypnosis as being like,
Yeah, isn't meditation or chanting of mantras is self-hypnotizing?
I think we're
into
hypnotized. I think
that-
we're hypnotized.
that-
I think we're hypnotized into the materialistic three-dimensional world
Well,
yes,
as we
What-
become like 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, from the beginning. From
I think
the
this
beginning.
is a long hypnosis.
Yeah.
And
I guess it's
Past life
an
regression?
evolutionary
Yeah.
thing.
I know a
That,
lot about that.
yeah, I do a lot of past life
And you know
regressions.
that we come in with already knowing.
Sure, yeah.
And like he's saying, we become hypnotized
Right.
ego-wise.
Well, you
And-
can use hypnosis for programming, and that's what you're talking about. You're talking about people being programmed, and our society programs us to want to buy
Yeah.
stuff and so on.
Watch children as they age. It's like something comes over them, they lose their wonder,
Yeah.
and that's the mass hypnosis.
Yeah, I agree. So hypnosis is just a state of consciousness that you can use in a very positive way, like to speed healing, or to create relaxation, or to learn a language faster, to become more successful as a lecturer. But you can also certainly, it's being misused all the time. I mean, car salesmen study hypnosis so they can learn how to guide people into an altered state and how to give them the suggestions that will convince them to buy a car they don't need.
Meditation
or
is a process of becoming unhypnotized from the material world.
Well, I would say that altered states of consciousness is like a huge house, and in it has many rooms. And that's where altered states can be used for meditation, for chanting, for trance dance, can be used for speeding your understanding of learning how to a language faster because you're in an altered state of consciousness. You can use it for healing from cancer. I've helped a number of people heal from cancer using self-hypnosis. You can use it for healing from depression. So there altered states can be. There's so many different ways to use altered states in a positive way, and there are also some negative ways too.
Do you do past life regression?
Yeah.
Can you tell definitively whether a person's recall of a past life is different from his imagination?
Not really, but what I can say about that is that a number of my clients have done research on the past lives they came up with that they had no knowledge of before, and gotten incredibly specific information about that to them absolutely proved that what the past life they explored was real. And that's happened a number of times that people have come back and said, oh, I can't believe it. I really, like one man who really disliked Native American teachings and tribes, had no interest in whatsoever in Native Americans, was rather put off by the whole scene, thought it was rather disgusting how white people want to be Indians and so on.
That's because they don't understand the truth.
Well, so he did a past life with regression with me, and in that past life he was a Native American medicine man who had some really bad experiences being a medicine man. He ended up being in a big conference in like the mid 18th century of medicine people, and he was a guy who had these visions of white people coming in, and or maybe it was even a century before that. Anyway, white people coming in and destroying, genocide. And basically, he was thrown out of the whole conference and told that he was just hated white people and he was intolerant and go away. And
White
and
people
brokenhearted,
white people did do that.
Well, I know, but I'm saying this was long before they did. This was before they had moved to they were just now settling in the East, and natives didn't know much about white people at those days. Anyway, in that particular regression, he ended up dying. He went out in the desert and just died. Just decided, well, they don't appreciate what I'm trying to tell them, and I know this is true, this is going to happen, there's nothing I can do, and he died. Well, it was not a pleasant past life. And then when he came out of his trance, he said, "Oh my God," he said, "that's horrible." And he said, but he had real specific information, which tribe, the names of the tribes that were there, the date that has happened, much more specific stuff than that. And about a month later, he called me and said, "I did some research." He said, "I've never studied anything about Native people because I've always felt really like I don't want to know anything about them." He said, "Everything that I experienced, all the details I told you about I did some research at UC Berkeley Library, and some very obscure books about Native people. There were these tribes that have now died out, and they did have this giant convocation back in this particular year. At any rate, he's one of half a dozen people I know that have done that kind of thing and come up with real
Have you had cases
information.
where you felt that the people, it was their imagination rather than?
Yeah, but ultimately I don't think it makes any difference,
Why is that?
because whatever you come up with is, whether it's true or not, it's always extremely relevant. It's whether it's a metaphor or not, even if it's just a metaphor, it's information that person really needs to learn or to know.
In other words, it's kind of like analyzing dreams.
Well,
You can give meaning to a dream.
except the past life experiences I've guided, most of them are really powerful, and whether they're real or not real, they have a tremendous impact. I did a past life session with a man who was in fact, he was from India, and he was a pediatrician. He was born in India, and had moved at a very young age to the States, and he'd always, since he was a tiny boy, said he wanted to be a doctor for children. And his wife persuaded him to come and do a past life session with me, and although he said he didn't believe in reincarnation, that it couldn't happen, well, I tape recorded the session. And during the session, he experienced being a little crippled boy who'd been maimed by his parents, so he could beg. And this was like a couple of 100 years ago. And by the time he was 12, he died of some terrible illness living on the streets, and he was half starving to death anyway. And he couldn't walk. He was, his leg had been so destroyed, he had to he had to just pull himself along the street on a little cart. It was a horrible lifetime. He died in great pain. Well, when I brought him out of trance, he sat up and he said, "Oh, I had such a lovely nap. I'm sorry that I couldn't go into trance scale, but I didn't believe in the reincarnation anyway." And I said, "Let me play this for you." And I turned on the tape recorder and played this what he'd said in great detail. And he broke into tears, and he was weeping and weeping. And he said, "Oh my God," he said, "now I know why I had to become a pediatrician. Because I ever since I was 1 year old," he said, I've wanted to stop the pain of little children. Since my first encounter with other kids, because now I know where it came from."
Yeah. Some people, they tell that they have some signs on their bodies from their previous.
Yeah.
And how is that possible?
Well, I haven't heard of that, but I've certainly heard a lot of stories and read a lot of stories about children who knew people from a past life, or knew where things were buried out in the backyard, like money or
Ian
various things.
Stevenson.
Huh?
Ian Stevenson and Carol Bone, she talked about the children remembering their past lives
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Many lives, many masters. You read that?
Yeah, it's the Brian Weiss.
That was really
Yeah,
good.
there's lots and lots of stories of children and young people.
Casey got lots of stuff
Yeah,
too.
right, of people knowing things from their past lives and having it being proved true. But like I say, it doesn't matter to me anymore. Even people come in and say, "I don't believe in reincarnation," and I do a past life regression, I say, well, it may be perfectly symbolic, but if it's symbolic and metaphorical or factual, you're still going to learn a lot from it.
Do you have experience with psychic mediums who claim they can contact the dead?
I've got a lot of
Oh, yeah.
experience.
Do you know these people, or do you do it yourself?
I have met a lot of ghosts in my life, a lot of spirits. And I think that there are a lot of frauds out there, and there are also people who really can do that, who are really honest to goodness trance mediums.
I toured the Winchester Mystery House with James Bond Prague.
Oh, he's assassinating.
Yeah, he read me. He's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's plenty of frauds out there. I'm real
Yep,
skeptical
a lot
of
of
psychics
frauds. I'm totally skeptical, but
channels
there's
and-
some real good ones too.
but there are some really excellent.
You know about
Honest people.
Mitra or something like that? The old lady Mitra?
Uh-uh.
I can't, yeah, she's world renowned, she's a psychic,
Never
she
heard
does
of her.
past life stuff too.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that are. You have to be awfully careful because there's a lot of people that make claims that are totally fraudulent.
Yeah. 90% of them are fake, you know.
Yeah, I think
But-
so too.
You know, the ones who are real are real.
Our physical body is different from our consciousness or atma,
Sure.
soul, whatever we
Sure,
understand
definitely.
from, or whatever we read or heard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
And
multidimensional
once
beings.
an individual dies, right? How come it retains that identity or that shape for as a ghost?
How does it retain it?
Retain it's a physical form on one form or the other.
Well, from
See,
what
see like individuality,
uh-huh.
right?
This
Like consciousness, you say, stays forever.
yes.
Right, right. And my question is, if it's a consciousness, right? There is a supreme consciousness, we say, and we are a part of that consciousness,
Right,
which
we're
we
all
have.
individual
How
pieces of it.
how that consciousness retains its individuality after dying?
I can't. Can I
like
answer?
it's a piece
Can I-
of bundle.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
You keep asking me and then you start talking again. So
Okay.
you want an answer?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. The way I understand it is we're all like leaves on the tree of God. We're all part of the whole, but we're all individual consciousnesses as well.
Okay.
And we go from life, and the way I understand it and believe is in my belief, we do go from life to life, learning and growing, hopefully, not always, but we have to learn everything. We have to be monsters in some lives, we have to be wonderful, we have to go through all the different ways of being human beings to learn all the various lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And the spirits that I've met, because I've met a number, including my brother on several occasions,
Mm-hmm.
The ones that stick around for different reasons. Either they're watching out for somebody that they love very much and they feel they need to stick around and watch out for their daughter or their wife or whatever. Or they stick around because they don't understand that there is a spiritual place to go and they're kind of stuck on the earth plane and they don't know how to leave. Some beings get stuck because they've done something terrible and they're not aware that they're dead. I met one woman, a ghost, she was really evil. She destroyed a lot of people's lives and tried to kill me and a bunch of other people. But I don't think she really understood she was dead. She thought she was. And
That's
apparently,
true
she
for a
had
lot of
murdered
people.
somebody and buried them under the floor of this building that I was working out of.
Mm.
And she was afraid that she was going to get caught and put in prison or something or killed. She was really very confused. You could say she was mentally ill ghost or
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
But she was also very, very angry and very, very vindictive and very, very dangerous. So because I kept running into spirits in my late 20s, starting with my brother's ghost several times, I started, and then having some very bad, scary experiences, I started learning about all this. And I continued meeting ghosts and various spirits in various places until I really, until apparently I learned enough.
How did this start?
How did it start?
This contact with spirit, how did it start for
With
you?
my brother's death. I mean, I met him at his funeral.
You met your brother, spirit, at
Yeah,
his
he
funeral?
came to me and started talking to me. And I thought I was completely crazy. Except he said, he got really mad at me. He had a really bad temper. And right before he died, and said, "God damn it, Gail, will you just listen to me? You're the only one I can talk to here who won't think she's completely crazy." I said, and I was talking in my head and saying, "Wait a minute, are you really my brother?" And he said, "Yes, I'm your brother. Will you, please, I need to talk to somebody." I said, well, go talk to Mom and Dad. They're weeping over in the other aisle. He said, no, they'll think that they're freaking out. They'll think they're crazy, and but you'll listen. I thought.
What
Well,
was your
that's true.
attitude toward these things before you had this experience?
I didn't believe any of it was real. I'd never had a psychic experience. I'd never had any kind of, I'd never really thought about it much. Until my brother came to me and started talking to me, and so I started
Were you close to your
him.
brother?
Huh?
Were you
No,
close?
not at all. Not at all. But I asked him a lot of questions that only he could have known, like, who is your girlfriend? I had no idea I was going to a different college.
How did he die?
He died in a car accident, a really bad one.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 other people died. He was responsible for 3 people's death, including his own.
Mm-hmm.
It was a terrible accident.
My grandma came to me when she died.
What?
My grandma came to me when she died. Just claircognizance. I just suddenly knew she was dead, and just this feeling of her having had a great life. And then the next day, I hadn't even spoken to her in like 20 years. She was my step grandma. And then the next day, my brother called me and said, "Grandma died," and I said, "I thought she died yesterday at like 3 o'clock." He said, "Yeah, she did."
That's lots and lots of people have people come to
Yeah,
this one
it's
thing.
actually-
My grandma too, when her mom died, and she told me people told her she was crazy and seeing things. I told her you weren't. That was real.
No, that was real. My brother was real. I've had 2 other experiences since then. So I've learned a lot about spirits because I kept running into them.
Do you know Terry Daniels?
No,
She started the Afterlife Awareness Conference. She lives around here somewhere.
Yeah, well, nowadays I did have one ghostly encounter a few years ago, but it actually wasn't me. It was a dear friend of mine who was visiting from Holland, and he woke up screaming in my spare bedroom, my guest bedroom, in the place I was living on the Mendocino coast. And I leaped out of bed, and he came rushing out of the room looking white as a ghost, saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And I said, "Something is pulling the breath out of me, I can't breathe." And I sat him down and I did some chakra balancing and grounded him, and he said, this man came to me and said, "You don't belong here, I'm gonna kill you." And he was just so full of hate. And he said I was wide awake, I could feel him sucking the life force out of me. And I said, okay, and I made him a cup of cocoa or something. He said, "You just sit here and breathe, I'm gonna go in the bedroom and see what's going on there." And what I felt was this Native American guy who'd, apparently there was a lot of massacres on the Mendocino coast. A lot of Native people killed, especially in the 18th century. And this guy was a Native guy who'd been, his whole tribe, everybody was wiped out, including him. And he just stuck around in that meadow. And the fellow who was visiting from Holland is, he doesn't consider himself very psychic or anything, but he's very, very intuitive, very sensitive guy. And so anyway, I just felt the presence of this being, and I asked him please to leave my house at any rate, and he I could feel the spirit kind of taking space, but still very, very angry. And so the next day I called a dear friend of mine who's a professional clairvoyant, and I didn't tell her what was happening. I just said, there's a presence at my house. Could you come over and tell me what you perceive? I don't want to prejudice you, whether it's positive or negative or whatever. And she came over and she picked up exactly the same thing I did.
Do you ever get uncomfortable with this?
No, I don't. I never have. Well, yeah, that's not true. When I met the second ghostly experience I ever had scared the shit out of me. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. It was so scary. But since then, I haven't been scared because I started learning. I started realizing that ghosts are not. They can be dangerous.
You feel comfortable talking about it here, but are you comfortable talking about it in your life apart from work?
Oh yeah, sure.
You are comfortable with it?
Yeah, talk about it whenever I get a chance. I think it's important.
Yeah. But the response of people isn't always positive.
I always have people. I've never had any bad responses,
Oh.
actually.
Hmm.
But no, I mean, to me, there's a spirit world that's very real, and I'm not scared of spirits anymore, although I sure know there's some dangerous ones out there. But mostly they're not dangerous. Mostly they're just people who die, and for one reason or another, they stay here until
Yeah,
They're-
Chris
they're helped to
Griscom tells
leave.
him to go to the light.
What?
Chris Griscom, you ever heard of her?
Yeah.
She always, in her earlier books in the 80s, said that she would ask these lost spirits to go to the light.
Sometimes
Yeah,
they
they
don't
need
want.
help. They need guidance.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's not always that simple.
I know that.
But yeah, if they're
But
ready to
that's what she
go,
would
they're willing to go.
suggest.
Yeah, yeah,
And she suggested those of us reading the books would
yeah.
try to pitch in and do our part to do that.
I agree. Usually it works, but I've had a couple of experiences where it wasn't that easy.
I've been talking with, I'm trying to find a psychic medium that I could trust. You know, as you say, there are a lot of them out there that you can't trust. And so I asked one of the swamis at the Vedanta Society,
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know, what's your experience with psychic mediums? How does Vedanta view this? And he said that the person who claims to be a psychic medium or who does this is not working for his own authentic spiritual development.
Oh, I think that's too. No, I don't agree with that.
That's
Everybody is. Yeah, that's too formulaic.
That's dogmatic.
Too dogmatic. I mean, some people are. Everybody's different. I've met my favorite and most profound psychic friend. Unfortunately, died a couple of years ago. I'd say go see her because she's the real McCoy.
Who is she?
Antonia Lamb. She lived on the coast. Incredible astrologer and psychic, and just an amazing woman.
There's a really great one
She's gone.
who speaks at the San Francisco Spiritualist Church. Her name's Charlene Spitzer. She's $140 an hour, which is really a good price. She's
Oh.
phenomenally.
What's her name?
Charlene Spitzer.
Do you have her phone number? I'd like to know about that.
Yeah, you can find her on the net.
Do you go to that church?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there
Oh
twice.
yeah. I mean, like there were like eight
Mhm.
mediums there. Like 5 of them, 6 of them all suck, but 2 of them are for real.
Who's doing it tomorrow?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't
Sunday.
go every week.
Do you still do past life regression?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah, I do all kinds of work with
Could I
people.
get your phone number?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to take a shot at that too. I like.
Past life regression is quite amazing. I've got some great stories of my own past lives.
Hmm.
I mean, ones that just came spontaneously.
My stepfather hypnotized me once, and he was kind of a bad guy, and he turned into the devil.
Thank you.
He turned into the devil, and it just completely freaked me out when I was like
Wow.
13.
He turned into the devil?
He did. He just looked like the devil.
This was a past life, you said?
No, it was real. He would hypnotize people, and I never believed
Thank
he
you
was
very much.
hypnotizing
Yeah,
people.
welcome.
I never believed they were actually hypnotized. I thought they were faking it, and so he's like, "Let me hypnotize," and he like hypnotizes me, and I just went into this state where I was
What is your name again,
terrified
sir?
because he was
Jang,
the devil.
Jang,
And
He was probably
A-
not working from a pure heart.
N,
he was not a pure person.
G as in George.
He's an evil
He's
person.
probably
Last
doing it
name
for
is
power and
Jaswal.
control.
You're right.
J-
It was to
A,
impress
S,
people, but
Yeah.
W,
nevertheless, he had some sort. He could do like
L.
use a divining rod. I
Jaswal.
mean, he had some sort of a
Thank you.
power.
I-